Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Trust you had a great weekend. We hosted Eric Solheim of UNEP, myself and Sander Ojiambo of Saharan at the Intercontinental. We were a trending topic for 11 hours and we were top of the trend for quite a while. I'd like to thank Eric. It was a wonderful education in all things environment. Thanks to UNEP, Saharan and Sander, and to the Intercontinental. Eric tweeted he's delighted to be at Mindspeak with myself and Sander in Nairobi this morning, looking forward to hearing more about business, the environment, and sustainability in Africa. He said many things and will be editing his footage, but he said a 15-year-old in Vietnam is better educated than a 15-year-old in the US or Norway, which made me think visionary leaders are vital, he said as well. 1 million young Africans joining the workforce every month was the challenge. He said leadership, private sector, and education are the three pillars to development. He signed an agreement with Rabobank in Davos, and he was coming back from Davos, unfortunately. Made it, though the airport was locked down for 45 minutes at one point to allow Trump and his billionaire friends to exit. My opening thoughts are here. I was using the example of the Nairobi-Mombasa Road as to what's been happening. We've published all our sequences from the Standard Chartered Bank Economic Outlook. The first one is a presentation by the CEO here, Lamin Manjang. The second is a 1-hour presentation by Razia Khan, who's the chief economist for Middle East and Africa. And the third is a panel discussion that I hosted after Razia's presentation. Macro thoughts: US Treasuries continue sell-off across the curve. That's from Holger. Go back to my article in September 2016. Mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. Bonds bubble about to pop. 10-year government bond yields on both sides of the Atlantic have jumped to critical levels. Again, Holger. Audrey Brown pays tribute to Hugh Masekela, one of the best-known trumpeters in the world. This is on the BBC World Service. The link is there. I particularly like the opening sequence, which apparently was a song written by Hugh Masekela when he visited DR Congo and fell in love with a lady. He said, "I'm a forward-looking person and live in the moment to build for the future." My favorite photograph by Alf Kumalo, and indeed, what a loss. We should have a holiday called Space Day, where lights are shut off for an hour at night to reduce light pollution so we can see the galaxy. I read Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury. Interesting ring of truth about it, really quite extraordinary in many ways. Matte Black Country Road. This is Dewey County, South Dakota, 2016. Magnum photos caught my attention. Political reflections: gunfire and explosion of Afghan military academy in Kabul. Attacks keep getting bolder and deeper into what should be the most secure areas in Afghanistan. The frequency has stepped up. The number of deaths per attack has stepped up. The city was still mourning the more than 100 people killed by a suicide bomber who used an ambulance to penetrate security and detonate a device in a crowded city street. Jeremy Corbyn has reiterated his opposition to a second referendum on the EU, adding that the ship has sailed. And last week, a poll of more than 5,000 people by ICM for The Guardian showed that more people favoured a second referendum than opposed one. After removing respondents that were undecided, 58% supported a fresh vote, giving it a 16-point lead over the 42% who were against. I think he should have pivoted on this issue a long time ago. And I like this from NJ Hucknall. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn clarifies his Brexit position. Just look at it, it's a GIF. Met with President Paul Kagame ahead of his accession as President of the African Union, when President Alpha Conde's one-year mandate expires on the eve of the 30th. This is the African Union Heads of State Summit. That tweet was from Musa Faki. I strongly believe Africa is one of the greatest forces for good in our world. Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, speaking at the 30th AU Summit. I would like the AU to adopt the protocol on free movement, again Musa Faki, so that Africans who are very much subject to humiliations when travelling can stop being strangers on their own continent. In this photograph posted by Manoa Esipisu, President Kenyatta, President Zuma, Kaguta Museveni and President Al-Sisi can be seen in a holding area before a summit on fighting terrorism in Addis. Addis Ababa is changing so fast. Happy to be attending the AU summit. That's Carlos Lopez. Remarkable Sino-Africa story. China bugged the African Union headquarters with hidden microphones and transferred server data to Beijing each night. That is a tweet from Nick Branson referencing a story in Le Monde Afrique à Addis Ababa, la siège de la Union africaine espionnée par Pékin. Iran's leader Ayatollah Khamenei is seen in Tehran yesterday morning on his way to teach a lecture. Outstanding article in the New York Times about the follower factory. Everyone wants to be popular online, some even pay for it, inside social media's black market. All these accounts belong to customers of an obscure American company named Devumi that has collected millions of dollars in a shadowy global marketplace for social media fraud. Devumi sells Twitter followers and retweets to celebrities, businesses, and anyone who wants to appear more popular or exert influence online. Drawing on an estimated stock of at least 3.5 million automated accounts, each sold many times over, the company has provided customers with more than 200 million Twitter followers, a New York Times investigation found. The accounts that most resemble real people, like Ms. Richley, reveal a kind of large-scale social identity theft. At least 55,000 of the accounts use the names, profile pictures, hometowns, and other personal details of real Twitter users, including minors, according to a Times data analysis. These accounts are counterfeit coins in the booming economy of online influence, reaching into virtually any industry where a mass audience or the illusion of it can be monetized. Fake accounts deployed by governments, criminals and entrepreneurs now infest social media networks. By some calculations, as many as 48 million of Twitter's reported active users, nearly 15%, are automated accounts designed to simulate real people, though the company claims that the number is far lower. The Times reviewed business and court records showing that Devumi has more than 200,000 customers, including reality television stars, professional athletes, comedians, TED speakers, pastors, and models. In most cases, the records show they purchase their own followers. Well worth reading, brilliant article, and it's a very murky area, isn't it? Russia is prevailing upon Tehran and Damascus to get on with life, leaving it to Erdogan to sort out the fate of the US presence in Syria. China infrastructure push reaches Arctic, further isolating US. With the addition of the Arctic and Latin America last week, President Xi Jinping's signature Belt and Road Initiative has become truly global. Only the US, its neighbor Canada, and ally Japan have yet to be included in the plan, which seeks to build or upgrade a network of highways, railways, ports, and pipelines. 28th of August, I wrote a piece, China Rising, and in it I said Xi Jinping's One Belt, One Road program binds the world to Beijing, because all the roads and railways have one destination, that is China. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 124.10, dollar index 89.02, Japanese yen 108.97, Swiss franc 0.9354, the pound 141.22, the Australian dollar 0.8084, Indian rupee 63.545, South Korean won 1064.91, the Real 3.1514, Egyptian pound 17.71, the South African rand 11.88. Dollar index 1 year chart, last trading 89.147. Some folks are expecting a trading bounce from here. Euro dollar 1 year chart again, last trading at 124.07. I think we've got to fill some gaps here before we rotate higher again. The Aussie climbed as high as 0.8136 on Friday, the strongest since May 2015. It was last trading at 0.8083. Tourism to US under Trump is down, costing $4.6 billion and 40,000 jobs, says NBC News, but we knew that. Latest data shows a 3.3% drop in travel spending and a 4% decline in inbound travel. It's not a reach to say the rhetoric and policies of this administration are affecting sentiment around the world, creating antipathy towards the US and affecting travel behavior. That's the president of Tourism Economics. Prince Al-Walid was released finally. Arabian Inquirer is a bit of a parody account. One photo, I'll let you guess which, is a parody. Kingdom shares popped 10% higher after Al-Walid was released. Arabian Inquirer, tongue-in-cheek, Prince Al-Walid giant coffee mug sell out in minutes. I've already addressed the main issue. I think it's been a shakedown, monstrous proportions. Wynn Macau shares drop following allegations its chairman sexually harassed women. Gold last trading at 13.4775, but after a stonking rally from 1241. Crude oil last trading at $66.07 in New York. That too has been on a roll. Yellow Remembered Hills, Murray, Pakistan, Eden Walk, Paul Salopek. On the 30th of January, the Constitutional Court resumes hearings on whether or not President Edgar Lungu may serve a third term of office. Africa Confidential. Some veteran bankers are predicting yet more trouble, another sovereign default after Mozambique in 2017. For now, most eyes are on Zambia, whose combination of helter-skelter borrowing and bad procurement seems sure to trigger a crisis within months. Africa Confidential. The Economist, Ethiopia's regime flirts with letting dissidents speak without locking them up. And this is a serious issue. And I was saying this in October 2016, that the government needs to change tack, effect a course correction. And history shows us that this course correction is one of the most difficult things to pull off. Zimbabwe sees economic growth of 6% in 2018, according to the state newspaper. I think that 4.5% growth projection may be conservative, Chinamasa told the government-owned Herald newspaper. I will not be surprised if we end up towards the end of the year, all things being equal, at around 6%. We have to clarify our relations with MONUSCO in the coming days, Kabila said. I hope they don't consider Congo as a country under the tutelage of the UN. My piece over the weekend was headlined Davos, Eric Solheim and an outstanding IR effort out of Southern Africa. My guest at Mindspeak this Saturday was Eric Solheim, the Executive Director of UN Environment, and he was coming all the way from Davos, and therefore I was nervous that he might not make it. And in fact, Mr. Solheim spoke of a 45-minute airport shutdown so President Trump and his entourage of billionaires could depart, which cut things very fine. Mr. Solheim is a passionate advocate for the environment and gained some big wins in Davos, in particular partnership with Rabobank and BNP Paribas. The environment and a sustainable global economy are the big issues of the day, and climate change was in fact ranked the biggest risk that the world faces by the participants at Davos. 16 of the 20 most affected countries by climate change are in Africa. Davos remains the preeminent platform of its kind, a go-to destination for world leaders and CEOs. Klaus Schwab, who founded Davos, is to be commended for creating such a singular platform. Of course, Davos exists in a rarefied and elevated space and is dominated by the 1%. The 1% who Oxfam have cited as taking a disproportionate, supersized share of this 21st century economy of ours. Therefore, Davos remains a World Cup of sorts, where global leaders and CEOs seek to wow the crowds and gain mind share. Mind share is quite difficult to measure empirically, but it's like mojo, because you know when someone has it intuitively. It was David Pilling in the FT who said there is a great upheaval, not to say a full-scale revolution, going on in Southern Africa. What was clear to me last week was that Southern Africa was leading an investor relations engagement which was resonating worldwide. Cyril Ramaphosa was leading the charge. His interviews with Bloomberg, amongst others, were assertive, spoke to an inflection point, and wowed the financial markets. It's been a breathtaking assertion of narrative control over the South Africa story, and the markets have received the signal loud and clear. South African all shares at a record high, and the rand is at a 2.5-year high. Ramaphosa is saying all the right things. He has reinvigorated South African institutions, and he is presiding over the demise of his predecessor. South African assets, which previously were forced to endure a Zuma haircut, a discount correlated to Zuma political risk, have yet to revert back to neutral, and at this rate might even move towards a Ramaphosa premium. Investors will continue to pile in, and this bump has a lot further to go. On the 18th of December last year, I asked, will it be 1994 all over again? And investors seem to be thinking that this is a possibility. Ramaphosa has the big mo, and Pilling reckons there is a chance he might be the one to make the State of the Nation address in 2 weeks' time. President Emerson Mnangagwa, aka the Crocodile, has also been in Davos pressing the case for Zimbabwe. President Mnangagwa is set on a strategy where Zimbabwe, which is at rock bottom, manages to give the economy a meaningful stimulus ahead of an election in a few months' time. He's playing a sophisticated hand, reaching out to Britain, which is much keener at looking at the Commonwealth than ever before. President Mnangagwa might be running well ahead of his ZANU-PF party, but he appreciates his as a call to action, and he needs some action real quick. Here again, credit where credit is due. Mr. Mugabe used to sleep through these big events, but the Crocodile is playing a much sharper, wide-awake hand. Finally, President Lourenço had been widely expected to be a Dos Santos stooge, but has now earned the nickname of the Terminator, since terminating President Dos Santos' daughter Isabel and his son Jorge Filomeno. Angola, which was ranked the third largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa, but had become a family enterprise, President Lourenço sought to rein in the family and put the economy on a more even keel. The central bank has been repricing the Angola Kwanza and normalizing what was an out-of-kilter rentier economy. Southern Africa popped big over the radar last week. In the niche world of high-level investor relations, these three leaders really played a sophisticated and nuanced hand. 18th of December last year, I said, will it be 1994 all over again about South Africa? 20th of November last year, I said, Zimbabwe, the genie is out of the bottle. 2nd of January this year, I said, I like what I'm seeing in Angola. South African all shares up 3.51% so far this year. Dollar versus rand last trading at 11.88. It's headed towards 11. Egyptian pound at 17.71. Nigerian all share up 14.46% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange up 17.7% year to date. I like this photograph, elephants at the end of another day, Bobwata National Park, Namibia. A comprehensive list of cabinet appointments made by His Excellency President Kenyatta can be seen in this image. Uhuru is said to have told diplomats the planned event, this is the parallel swearing-in ceremony, amounted to a coup. We do not understand what he meant by a coup, but it was clear there may be violence if NASA goes on with their plans, said one official who asked not to be named. Detaining Raila and Kalonzo as part of the police's plan to stop NASA swearing in, that's a bad idea. It would inflame their supporters. Kenya plans to hold an investor roadshow in mid-February to promote a planned Eurobond issue, this country's central bank governor said on Friday. Patrick Njoroge did not disclose the sum involved. A source previously told Reuters the government was set to issue a $1.5 billion 10-year bond by the first week of March to take advantage of high demand for new issues. I said, sure, a $2 billion Eurobond will kick the can down the road. Eurobond markets remain very benign for sub-Saharan African issuers, sovereign issuers. If you want to see where these Kenyan Eurobonds are trading, have a look at this image. Central bank governor said last week the government should seek alternative ways of financing mega projects other than debt. And as I said on the 22nd of January, what is clear now is that the government of Kenya simply does not have the resource envelope to pursue all its priority projects on its own balance sheet. Safaricom closed at a fresh record of 30 and is plus 12.149% in January alone. EABL apparently booked a 700 million shilling gain in the half year to December from the sale of a disused brewery and a piece of land in Mombasa. They've also moved to secure a 12.5 billion shilling long-term loan from Standard Bank Group to build a Senator Cake plant. Could see its total debt top the 30 billion shilling mark. EABL is up 5.042% so far this year. They reported first half earnings where revenue increased 4.676%, profit after tax declined 11.334%, cash and cash equivalents surged 236%. Car in General reported full year earnings through September 2017. Revenue was down 1.034%. Gain in fair value of investment properties was up 49.255%. Profit before tax declined 34.585%. Profit after tax declined 10.162%. Earnings per share declined 22.973%. They called the year has been extremely challenging. 10% lower decline in profit was largely attributable to the following: weaker performance of the equipment business, increased debtor provisions, specifically in the retail sector. Nakumatt was a tenant in one of their buildings. Tanzania margins remain low. Uganda has performed reasonably. Objective is to embark on 2 small property developments in 2018 and liquidate some non-core property. Trading conditions this financial year look positive now that political stability has returned. They're paying a final dividend of 60 cents a share. Nairobi All shares up 6.13% year to date at a record closing high. My cartoon for the Elephant Info, this is Gathara. A lot of people are concerned now about this railway, and he's put it into a cartoon. NSE 20 is up 0.44% year to date. Thank you kindly for stopping by.